Feeling lost in your UPSC preparation? Too many books, countless strategies, and no clear direction? It's time to leave the confusion behind. Welcome to Retd IAS Jaipur's GS Foundation Course 2026, starting from 20th January at 7:30 am and 5 pm. With Delhi's expert faculty now in Jaipur, personalized mentorship and structured guidance, you'll have everything you need to master the UPSC Civil Services examination. From comprehensive syllabus coverage to advanced test series with performance analysis, we ensure your preparation stays on track. Prepare smarter, not harder, with proven strategies, consistent motivation, and complete support from Retd IAS Jaipur. Join the GS Foundation Course 2026 today. Batch starts 20th January, 7:30 am and 5 pm.
So afternoon sessions are very challenging sessions, always. And they are generally referred to, what is the name given to the afternoon sessions? They are called as graveyard sessions. Because in a graveyard, everyone is fast asleep. And particularly, if you have had a good meal, I'm sure all of you must have come with a good meal. So after taking, you have not taken meal? So, oh, Tuesday. But normally after a good meal, what happens is that your Madhya Pradesh is full. Your stomach is your Madhya Pradesh. So the Madhya Pradesh is full, and therefore the Uttar Pradesh goes to sleep. That is the Uttar Pradesh goes to sleep. But then life goes on in the afternoon also. And therefore we will touch upon a subject which is, there are three topics today. One is inclusive government, the other is smart cities, third is urban development. They are general issues of governance. Please feel free to stop me at any point of time. And just to introduce myself to all of you, those of you who do not know me, so I belong to the 1977 batch of Indian Administrative Service. I come from a place which is the Prime Minister's constituency, which is Varanasi, but where I did my BSc and MSc, and then I got selected into the IAS, came to get Haryana cadre allotted. So Haryana cadre, I shifted to Haryana, and capital of Haryana is Chandigarh. So after about 7-8 years of doing collectorship, then I came to Chandigarh, and since then I'm at Chandigarh, and I retired in the rank and scale of Chief Secretary from Chandigarh. After that, I am involved in giving lectures at various institutions. They are the public sector, the administrative training institutes, and academies for the aspiring youngsters like all of you. So feel free, you can ask me at any point of time. Whatever I am going to teach here is not only a bookish knowledge, but also based upon the practical experience. So first of all, let me ask you, start with the concept of good governance. Are you all aware about what good governance is about? Can you tell me what are the 8 pillars of the good governance? Have you ever heard about it? It's a concept which originated from World Bank, and now practically every country tries to practice good governance, because ultimately it is the public service delivery for whom? The citizens. So let me start off with some very basic things, and I will come to good inclusivity also. So can you see it from the distance? Is the color audible, visible or not? Okay, so which color would you like me to? White, okay. Okay, right. So before 1947, the system of governance was called as colonial system of governance. Why it was colonial system of governance? Because we were a British colony. Britishers, people say that the sun never set for Britishers, because they had a colony all over the world. So anywhere in the world, wherever they had a colony, somewhere or the other the sun was there. So sun never set in the case of British Empire. So we were a colonial system of governance, and then 1947 came, we got independence. And after that, we moved on to citizen system governance, which we normally called as citizen-centric system of governance. So the purpose was that initially we were complying with the orders of the British masters. That was the aim of the public servants. But then after independence, the governance focus was on the citizen. So the focus was on the ordinary citizen of this country. All schemes and programs were made with one single focus, how it is going to affect the citizen of the country. So that is called a citizen-centric system of governance. The citizen-centric system of governance worked on 4 pillars. The 4 pillars were citizen-centric. I am just trying to start off with some introduction. There were 4 E's. It was based on 4 E's. Ethos of service to citizen, that the public servants must possess ethos of service to the citizen. And all of you are aspiring to become those public servants. Your ethos must be to serve the citizen of this country. Number 2, ethics. So whatever you do, there must be an element of ethics and values, and that is why you have GS4 paper. The government decided that there was ethics was coming down, and therefore it was necessary to improve the ethics and values amongst the civil servants. The third was efficiency and effectiveness. Whatever you do, it should be efficient and effective. Can you tell me what is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness? Simple done बताइए. I'm not expecting Shashi Tharoor language, simply use simple language. Okay, all right. You are very near that. Efficiency is with minimum resources, maximum results. That with little money, little resources, you achieve much better results. So that is why, because ultimately whose money it is? It is public money, citizens' money. So the public servants are expected to use that money very efficiently. Minimum resources, maximum results. Okay, that is called as efficiency. And effectiveness. What is effectiveness? How much things will affect? Okay, so we will use another word for that. It is the impact. For example, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. What impact has it made? Has it resulted in improving the sex ratio? Because the sex ratio was going down. The girl child was being killed. So Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao was what? Ujjwala was brought to improve the health of the women folk. Swachh Bharat was introduced to improve the health of the women. So what is the impact? Has it really brought about a change? Right to education was introduced. Has it really improved education? Has it helped in getting more enrollment in the schools? Because small children in the rural areas, the parents never send them to the schools because they thought that they must earn for us rather than education, particularly for girls, you see. So the effectiveness is the impact. For example, just to give you, I will tell you some rudimentary things so that you, is basically the concept which is important. Supposing 100 crores is invested, is in education. Government earmarks 100 crores of rupees. Now this 100 crore is called as input. 100 crores, you put input of 100 crores. What will you make in 100 crores in education? You make colleges, make schools, and furniture on which you sit, books, teachers. Yeah, correct. So the output is the school buildings, furniture, books, teachers. But does it really produce education? It may or may not. Ultimately, the children who come out, they must be educated. They must get employment. They must have ethics and values. They must respect their parents. They must have the culture of ethics. So that is measured by the outcome. Outcome. Outcome is nothing but effectiveness. Here we were talking about effectiveness. Outcome is the effectiveness, whether it has actually created the impact. So coming back, efficiency and effectiveness, and fourth is equity with empathy. What is equity? Equity means equality. Yeah, it is equality, justice. Everyone should be treated the same. There should not be any bias or prejudice. Equity. With empathy. What is empathy? Yeah. Kind. Okay. Yeah. It is close to being kind. Huh? Relating to someone's experience. Okay. Yeah. Emotional quotient. Okay. Ah. Ha. Ha. So it is actually putting yourself in the shoes of another. So whether I feel the same pain which you are going through, that is empathy. I should empathize with the other person. So the civil servants are supposed to empathize with the people, with the citizen. Citizen is the focus. So equity means treating everyone equally, and empathy means the public servant should feel the pain by putting themselves in the shoes of the citizen. Okay. So these are the 4 E's, citizen centric. Sure. Now, having understood the citizen centric system of governance, let us now move on to the good governance. I am slowly moving toward inclusive governance, but let's understand good governance now. So, no, it doesn't. E? Yeah. Which one? हाँ उसी को मैंने किया था. अच्छा इसको okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now let's come to good governance. Good governance has got 8 pillars. Can you name one or two? Transparency. Yeah. Rule of law. Okay. Accountability. Okay. Efficiency and effectiveness. Yeah, inclusivity. No, that is not a part of this. No, citizen charter is not a part of it is one of the measures to ensure good governance. But the principles, 8 pillars or principles, yeah, participatory.
Responsive.
Responsiveness. And one more, consensus building. Now, transparency was introduced with a particular enactment of law. What was that? RTI Act, Right to Information. That was to introduce transparency. So transparency was RTI. When was it enacted? 2005. Rule of law means following the rule of law. Whatever you do, it should be in accordance with established law, procedures, SOPs, rules. One should not go against the rule of law, because if you do something which is against the rule of law, there will be anarchy. So the civil servant must follow the rule of law. So rule of law. Accountability. What is accountability? How? It's kind of responsibility. Taking charge. Leading from the front. Like an army general. He walks in the front. He takes responsibility for whatever he does. He will never pass the blame to others. So accountability means not blaming others, not blaming circumstances. Walk the talk. Walk in the front. Okay. So that is accountability. So one of the great examples of accountability was shown by one of the former prime ministers of this country, who was once the railway minister. Who was he? Lal Bahadur Shastri. When did he display the accountability? Rail accident. So there was a train accident and he was the railway minister. Now, instead of passing the buck, he said, I am responsible because I am the minister. Now the train was not being driven by the minister. It was being driven by an engine driver. But he took upon himself the responsibility. That is called as accountability. Another great examples of accountability, I'm sure some of you might have heard the name of 2 Government of India organizations which are very good in creativity and innovation. The 2 most important Government of India organizations are DRDO and ISRO. So there was one former president of this country who worked in both these organizations, APJ Abdul Kalam. Now when APJ Abdul Kalam was working as a project director in ISRO, what was the name of his boss? Satish Dhawan. Correct. So once there was a satellite launch program, and Satish Dhawan entrusted the responsibility to APJ Abdul Kalam, who was made the project director. And on the day of the launch, the computer said, don't launch, there is a mistake, there is a flaw somewhere. If you launch, it will be a failure. But Mr. Kalam was so confident of himself that he overruled the computer and manually launched the satellite. The satellite went up and fell into the Bay of Bengal. It was a complete disaster, and millions of rupees were lost. The entire media was gunning after ISRO, and therefore, with lot of disappointment, APJ Abdul Kalam went to meet his boss Satish Dhawan, and Satish Dhawan said, you don't have to worry, you are not accountable, I am accountable. You just call the media, I will address the media. The media was called, and Satish Dhawan addressed the media, and he said, if anyone is to be held responsible, it is me and no one else. And then he added, 6 months down the line, we will launch another satellite, and this time there will be complete success. And he reposed confidence again in APJ Abdul Kalam, and this time the satellite was a success. The satellite was launched, and the entire country was in jubilation because of the success of the satellite launch. And now, with lot of happiness and delight on his face, APJ Abdul Kalam went to meet his boss Satish Dhawan, and this time Satish Dhawan said, today I am not going to address the media, you will address the media. And rest is history. APJ Abdul Kalam addressed the media, and the entire praise was showered upon APJ Abdul Kalam. So Kalam has written in his memoirs that when there was a failure, the entire blame was taken over by Satish Dhawan. And when there was a success, the entire credit was passed on to me and my team. That is accountability, taking charge, leading from the front. So a civil servant must have accountability. MS Dhoni also correct. Fourth is efficiency and effectiveness. We have just now seen whatever he does, minimum resources, maximum result, and it should create an impact. Inclusivity. What is inclusivity? Ratan Tata said, holistic development, okay, correct. So Ratan Tata said, if you want to move fast, go alone. But if you want to move far, walk together, take everyone along with you. That is inclusivity. So whether it is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, weaker sections of the society, economically weaker, women, children, handicapped, all of them are part of the system. They must be taken together, and that is the job of the civil servant. The civil servant must have inclusive approach. And the Prime Minister also brought about a program. In fact, a slogan was launched, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. So that is inclusivity. Okay. In the family also setting, what is inclusivity? Which are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders in your family? Your parents, your grandparents, your sister, your brother, your domestic servant. You must care for everyone. Take them together. So that is inclusivity, which we are going to discuss in greater detail today. But before that, let me just finish off. Participatory. What is participatory? You see, these are fundamental things. And let me tell you with a certain amount of confidence, if you use these terms in civil services mains paper, whether it is GS4 paper or GS2 paper, it is going to create a real impact. Wherever you feel, you can put the word accountability where it matters, inclusivity. So these are the things, terms, and which you should use quite often in your paper, mains paper. But coming to participatory, what is participatory and why should participatory approach be there? Why? Participation of each and every stakeholder creates what? what does it result in? It helps in achieving correct results. Now, you know that if a single man or a woman takes a decision, there are possibilities of it going wrong. But if many minds are applied together, then the pros and cons are there, different. Someone will come up with some idea, someone will say, no, 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 this has got this positive and this negative. So everyone will be able to, their minds will come together, that is participatory. It is in the form of a team. Team is an acronym. What is the full form of team? Yeah, go ahead. It is very near that. Together, when you work like a team, T is together, E is everyone achieves more. So when you work together, you achieve much more. Sometimes we also write, instead of more, miracles. You can create miracles if you work together like a team. And that is why when people work at cross purposes, then the organization suffers. But if they all have a shared goal, they work together, then it leads to success. Fortune 500 companies all over the world, they get their work done through teams and not through individuals, because they believe that the results achieved through teams are far, far superior. So participatory is basically working like a team. Now, governance, remember this thing, governance should not be only the work of government. There are two other important entities which must go along with the government to achieve results. What are they? Governance should take into account the government, the civil society, and stakeholders. What is the civil society? What is civil society? The civil society consists of educational institutions, universities, institutes, pressure groups, interest groups, media. They are all part of the civil society. And who are the stakeholders? Who are affected by the decision. So the stakeholders, for example, if you are making, so it is the market. If you are making a policy for industries, the industries, they must be consulted. And civil society means the institutions, you see, the educational institutions, the academies, the universities, the think tanks, they are the civil society, the media. So governance is too serious a matter to be left only to the government. Where you don't consult civil society or stakeholders, the policy suffers. The 3 farm laws did not, they had to be taken back because the participatory approach was not applied. You remember there was also a amendment which was made in an act. Truckers went on strike, hit and run. So they said, you have not been consulted. So participatory approach, it's like a team building. So you must refer the matter to a team. Let them take it. Same-sex marriage. It is an issue which is a highly controversial issue. It can't be resolved by government alone. Not can be resolved only by judiciary. You need people from the civil society. Lawyers, people who, because there are a number of viewpoints. Legal issues are there. Religious issues are there. For example, in the case of same-sex marriage, who will be called the husband and who will be called the wife? There are many legal issues. How will be the progeny? How will the family develop further if there are both are females or both are males, same sex? So there are many issues. Such issues cannot be resolved by government alone. it has to do consultative process. It must consult the social leaders, the politicians, the legal experts. So that is participatory. And responsiveness, what is responsiveness? What is responsiveness? Reacting, okay. Yeah. Actively or proactively responding to the problems of the people. So, for example, grievance redressal. A person comes with a grievance. My file is not moving. That clerk is sitting on my file. Now, if you don't do any action, you are not responsive. But if you call that person, you say, why are you sitting on the file? That is being responsive. Responding to the needs of the people, that is grievance redressal, is a part of responsiveness. The government of the day must be responsive to the people, because people are the citizen. Citizens are the focal points. Governments of the day may come and go after 5 years if it is not responsive. So responsiveness is a very important part of good governance. And last is consensus building. If there are different viewpoints, for example, just to give example, if the government is formed not by one party, but there is a coalition government. Even now we have a coalition government. So you have to arrive at a common consensus. One party cannot have the final say. You have got BJP, you have got there are three important constituents. There are many of my NDA, but Telugu Desam, so that is the consensus. You have to build a consensus. So whenever there are different viewpoints, then you have to come to a common consensus. So this is another part of the good governance, that whenever there are different viewpoints, you have to build a consensus. Okay. So now, having understood what good governance is, we will concentrate on the inclusivity now. It is. It is. You wala? Yeah. Thank you. So inclusive governance. Policy innovation for marginalized and vulnerable populations. You remember we talked about inclusivity. Inclusivity means taking everyone together. So particularly those who are well-to-do, who are haves, they get everything done. But those who are not haves, they are have-nots. The marginalized section, a scheduled caste, a scheduled tribe, economically weaker. We have to take them together, and that is inclusivity, one of the principles of good governance. So marginalized and vulnerable population, policy innovations for them. And that is why you have scholarship for scheduled castes. Okay, you have got Ujjwala, you have got Swachh Bharat, you have got. Can you tell me some of the marginalized schemes for the marginalized sections? Huh? Yes, correct. There are schemes for tribals, there are schemes for scheduled castes, there are schemes for women, schemes for children. So, Awas Yojana, PM Awas Yojana. So, they are all, even the scheme like Manrega is also for the laborers, who do not get occupation. So, these are inclusivity examples. So, the definition is, inclusive governance involves decision making that includes all stakeholders, particularly marginalized groups. So you take those marginalized groups along with you. And that is the, every government, whether it is BJP or Congress or for that matter any government, it has to care for the marginalized sections. Because inclusive governance means only one group of people should not develop, but we should take all the stakeholders together. So goals is promote social justice, equality and human rights. So this is, you have to have equality, social justice and human rights. So the human rights violation are many times there in respect of very poor sections. For example, someone is put into police custody, a poor man, and his arrest is not shown. Within 24 hours he has to be produced before a magistrate. So it's a human rights violation. The custodial death succor, human rights violation. So there are human rights violation. So it should, the inclusivity will promote social justice, that all sections of society, even the affirmative action, reservation is also social justice. Equality, all of them should be equal. Under constitution all are equal, but actual practice it may not be so. So we have to make them equal. Okay? Right. Sorry. Now, there are two types of inclusivity. One is called process based and the other is called outcome based. So process based is who participates and the quality of decisions. So the people who participate in taking decisions, that is called as process based. That means, for example, POSH. There is an internal complaints committee. You are all aware about POSH? Hai? POSH originated from an incident in Rajasthan. What was that incident? So, yes, correct. What was the name of the worker? Mavri Devi. So Mavri Devi, atrocity was committed against her by some people belonging to a particular political party, and then the matter went to court. All the people were acquitted, and then an NGO took up their cause, her cause, and then Supreme Court came into being and they issued direction to the central government, which are called as Vishakha guidelines, and Vishakha guidelines ultimately paved the way for POSH Act. So in the POSH Act there is an internal complaints committee. Now the internal complaints committee is always headed by a woman, always. So therefore, process based, who participates and the quality of decisions, that is process based. The process which you have adopted. For example, if a scheme for scheduled caste is to be made, a committee is formed. There must be members of scheduled caste there. So the stakeholders need to be consulted. The stakeholder must form part of the decision making. So number one is inclusivity is through process based, who participates and the quality of decisions taken by those people. That is process. The correct process should be adopted. The decision, for example, this decentralized governance, what is it? One, the decision should be taken from the bottom. Example, Panchayati Raj system. So the 73rd, 74th Amendment were brought about, and that they are called as decentralized governance. So the development in the village should be decided by the people of that village and not by those people sitting in the air-conditioned offices in Delhi. So therefore, the process should be correct. And therefore, 73rd, 74th Amendment, actually, they said the village's development will come about only if the decisions are taken by the people of the villages. So it should be bottom to top approach, not top to bottom approach. Okay? Have you understood? This is the process oriented. Second is outcome. So distributional equity in access to health, education, justice. Whether people are able to get justice in the courts, before officers, whether they are able to get the health facilities in the hospital, whether they are able to send their children to the schools. So it should be result based or outcome based, impact based. Whether the decisions you have taken in inclusivity, it has produced the required results. For example, if a scheduled caste is not able to send the child to the school, that means the impact has not been made. So the inclusivity requires, number one, who is taking the decision, what is the quality of decision, number two, whether it is producing the desired results. So that is in access to health, if they are able to get medicine for the ailing wife, if they are not able to get their child admitted, then that means the inclusivity principle has been violated, vitiated. So this is the outcome based. Have you understood process based and outcome based? Process based is basically means, and outcome based is ends. Have you understood? Means and ends both are important. Means and ends are those of you who have you studied some papers, GS4 paper, have you studied? I mean, or you are just at the beginning threshold? 4-5 lecture. So the means and ends, there are two words which we use normally. The means should be correct. Gandhiji said the means should be right. But sometimes in government we see the ends are important. Sometimes ends justify the means. Let me give you an example. You see, everything principle must be explained by an example. Supposing there is a airplane which is flying at a height and it has 200 passengers on board, and terrorists take over, they hijack the plane. Now those 200 people and that airplane is being hijacked towards a high multi-storied building, and it is going to strike that building. The terrorists, they are not worried about their lives, they want to create a sensation. So they have diverted the plane towards a high-rise building, and the plane is going to strike that building. 200 passengers are there. Now, you are standing on the ground. You have an anti-aircraft gun in your hand. Anti-aircraft gun, from which you can fire a missile, and that missile can bring down that plane. The plane will crash, it will strike, the missile will strike that plane. So the plane will come down and 200 people will be killed. But you will be able to save 50,000 people who are in that high-rise building. 50,000 is more than 200. So in this case, the end results will be good, it will be happiness. You are able to save 50,000 people, because if the plane had struck that building, the building would have come down and those 50,000 people would have died. But if you bring down that plane before, then 200 people only die, but 50,000 people are saved. So the ends justify the means. Means are wrong. You are bringing out that plane, you are killing those people. They have not done anything wrong, but you are killing them. But you are able to save 50,000 people. So there are two thoughts, approaches. One is called deontological approach, the other is called utilitarian approach. Utilitarian approach says means are not important, ends are important. After all, you have been able to save 50,000 people. Even if you kill 200 people, doesn't matter. So they will say ends justify the means. But the ontological principle person will say, no, no, how can you bring down that plane? You are killing those 200 people. They have not done anything wrong. How can you commit murder? So the means are wrong. They say means are wrong. Even if those 50,000 people die, but you cannot bring down that plane. So here the emphasis is on means. So now in this case, what will you do? Which is the correct method? Whether the plane should be brought down or not? Brought down. What is the reason? To save 50,000 people? And one more important reason. In any case, those 200 people are going to die. Because the plane is going to strike that building. Those 200 people will be dead anyway. But if you bring them down before, then you will be able to save those 50,000 people. So this is how logically you will explain. So means and ends, both are important. And here, in the case of inclusivity, you require that the means, process-based is the means, and outcome-based is the ends. Okay? Is clear? Now there are inclusive governance requires, there are two terms which we use, intrinsic value and instrumental purpose. So intrinsic value promotes freedoms, citizen agency and democratic principle. So inclusive governance leads to creating intrinsic value. What is value? Value is it promotes freedom. So those people who are disadvantaged sections, who have never been taken part in the governance, so it produces intrinsic value. B.R. Ambedkar, he talked about reserving certain constituencies for, because it helps in promoting freedom, citizen agency and democratic principle. So it creates value, intrinsic value. So inclusivity principles creates intrinsic value. It promotes freedom. Otherwise, those people will never be in a position to take decisions for themselves. But if they occupy positions of power, then they are in a position to take part in the decision making, and it creates a value. The second is instrumental purpose. It enhances responsiveness. Why? What is responsiveness? Responding to the needs of the people. So inclusivity, when you care for all sections of the society, you are responsive, isn't it? That village consists of tribals. The tribals must also take part in the development of the country. So you could give special schemes, promote, giving them marketing of their products, etc. So that helps in responsiveness, you see. So you are responsive to the needs of the disadvantaged groups. So inclusive governance leads to responsiveness and reduces corruption. Why? Why it reduces corruption? Yes, you make people aware that this particular thing is for you. You take special measures. For example, voting. Now, those people who are belonging to scheduled castes or weaker sections of the society, sometimes the high caste people don't allow them to vote. This used to be till recently. So, by inclusive governance, what do? You create special booths for the disadvantaged groups, for women, for senior citizens, for children, and thereby reduce the chances of corruption. Corruption does not mean only money. Corruption means corrupting the system. So therefore, it reduces corruption because you pay special attention to the disadvantaged groups. If you mix all the people together, you will not be in a position to pay attention to the individual. But if you have a special department for scheduled caste, special department for scheduled tribe, for women, for handicapped people, then it will improve responsiveness, because attention will be, for example, minority commission is there. Minority commission takes care of the interests of the minorities. There can be a special requirement for people in the northeast. So you create a separate division for the northeast, special grant for the northeast, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh. And that is what is called as responsiveness and paying a greater attention and reduces corruption and supports development. Is it clear? That inclusivity helps in creating value and also serve the purpose of instrument. Okay. So intrinsic values, let's go a step further. How does it create intrinsic value? Some examples. Have a look at it. If you write down your answers, you see, if the basics are clear to you, you can use them in GS2 paper, GS4 paper, everywhere you can use, in the essay also. So my purpose of telling you here is not theoretical. It should be coupled with examples. So what is value? Promotes fundamental freedom, isn't it? Fundamental rights are prescribed under the Constitution, but if you have an inclusive approach, which all governments nowadays are having, every government likes to take the disadvantaged sections along, so that the entire country develops and not only a few people develop. So it enhances fundamental freedom. It enables people to voice their aspirations. So people who are disadvantaged, they are in a position to voice their aspirations. It can be labor unions, it can be farmers, it can be belonging to different communities, they are able to voice their concerns. It participation in decision making. That is why in panchayats you have reservations for women, you have reservation for scheduled caste, you have reservations in civil services also, selection also. So participation in decision making and enhances well-being and quality of life by fostering democratic principles. So it improves the well-being and quality of life. Supposing you provide scholarship to the scheduled caste child, then when he will get a government job, he or she, it will bring prosperity to the entire family, isn't it? And that is why inclusive approach takes those people also towards the fruit of development, which hitherto they were not able to get. Political voice. So you give a political voice to the people. For example, there are constituencies reserved for scheduled castes, for scheduled tribes. You give a political voice. B.R. Ambedkar created separate constituencies for the people. Freedom of assembly, transparent and accountable decision making. So it helps in being transparent and accountable. In fact, these are the words which you can use in many places. Let me tell you some of the words. Besides these 8 words of the good governance, which we already know, then there are certain other words which we normally use. Honesty, integrity, justice, truth, rationality, objectivity. These are the words which we use in civil services examination. And by using these words, you can make your answer very, very impressive. There are about 24 words. Whenever you prepare any particular paper, remember that there is a list of terms and definitions, which is normally called as glossary. Are you aware about glossary? So glossary is you must learn the glossary, the terms and definition. For example, integrity. What is integrity? We talk about integrity so many times. What is integrity? Hmm? Huh. So integrity is sticking to your values even when no one is looking at you, no one is supervising you. Example, again everything example. You are driving a car at 2 o'clock early in the morning and there is a red light. You you will jump that red light because there is no police constable, there is no traffic. That is lack of integrity. So if you are having integrity, you will stop at that red light and you will proceed only when it turns green. So this is example of integrity. So must understand every word. The simple words, they are more important than the difficult things. You must understand them. Okay. So accountable decision making, political voice is given. Instrumental purpose examples, it serves as a means to achieve development. So inclusivity serves as a means to achieve development. There are a number of districts which were neglected from the development, and a program was launched by this present government to develop those districts. What is that program? Aspirational district program. Now we have an aspirational block also program because those were underdeveloped. So a special injection has to be given to those districts. So this is how inclusivity also means that you have to have special efforts to bring those sections of the society who have hitherto never taken part in the fruits of development. So serves as a mean to achieve development. It makes institutions more responsive. So greater responsiveness to the needs of the citizens, because ultimately it is a citizen-centric system of governance. Enhances accountability and transparency. You are more transparent. Why? If you bring a separate funding pattern for scheduled caste, for tribes, there is a special component plan which is prepared for scheduled caste only. There can be a program for Muslims, there can be a program for Portuguese, there can be a program for different other communities, for example, Parsis. So you concentrate on that area and thereby those people develop much more. And this is the greater transparency and greater accountability, that you are paying greater attention to the people living in the northeast. By injecting lot of funds, you see to it that the roads are built, you see that the buildings are built. That is how they will come at the same level. Delhi in any case will get lot of development funds. Lucknow will get it, and the capital Gujarat will get it, everyone will get it. But the beauty is when you bring all the people, all the areas together in terms of development. Okay. So reduces resource misuse or corruption. So it also ensures that funds are not misused. Why? Why? Yes? It is your money, okay, yes. How misuse is prevented? Because once you have a special program for a specific section of society, you make them aware that these funds are for you. So they are aware that these funds, if they are not coming, the scholarship is not coming, they will go and complain. They say, sir, you had brought out this scheme and programs, but that amount has not come. So there is a less corruption, greater transparency, greater accountability, and less of misuse, because it is inclusive. Every year the government will bring out that so much money we will spend for under Manrega or for women or for children, and that is how the misuse is avoided. And foster equitable distribution. So this ensures equitable. Many times what happens that the political executive, they don't allocate funds to those areas who have not voted for them. नहीं नहीं इनको नहीं देंगे ना, मेरे को वोट ही नहीं दिया पिछले इलेक्शन में. That is how sometimes. But then it is the Prime Minister who has to see that the areas which have been neglected, they are also part of the entire country, whether they have voted or not. So the equitable distribution of funds must be there. So this is inclusive development. Okay.
Flipping through the newspapers, switching through multiple news channels, exploring different websites and online mediums for relevant news. Keeping up to date with important news is not only time-consuming but also requires meticulous upkeep of notes for thorough revision. With a limited period in hand and abundant resources to study from, do not let current affairs come in the way of your prelims success. Join the PT 365 program by Vision IAS and advance in your preparation for current affairs. Starting on 9th January at 5 p.m., this 20-day course offers comprehensive coverage of 1 year of current affairs in 60 hours. Join for improved knowledge with complete coverage of the Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, Economic Times, Yojana, Economic Survey, etc. Doubt-clearing sessions and mentoring for thorough knowledge. Access to Sandhan personalized test with 25,000 plus questions. Access to live and online classes for flexibility in timing. It's time to devote your energy to smart learning and not running. Enroll today and excel in UPSC prelims with a strong command of current affairs. Struggling with the vast UPSC prelims and mains syllabus, and juggling to stay up to date with the relevant current affairs? Preparing for the UPSC Civil Services examination alone can be intimidating and overwhelming. Realize your true potential and turn it into a victory benchmark with expert mentoring. Join the Laksha Integrated Mentoring Program for Prelims and Mains 2025 starting from 6th January and evolve your preparation strategy with the right guidance. Enroll and elevate your way to Prelims and Mains success with features such as personalized mentoring for coverage of syllabus, current affairs, revision, and much more. Rigorous practice and evaluation. Improved MCQ attempt and advanced answer writing skills. Holistic resource procurement and strategic insights. Technological and psychological support for enhanced outcomes. Step on board to make prelims and mains just another stepping stone in your UPSC success.
Now, India's path to inclusive governance, some of the policies. I can't include all of the policy, but some of the policy which I would like to highlight, you are all aware about it. It's not that you do not know about. I'm only putting them in bullet points. So, Panchayati Raj Institution, we just now see 73rd, 74th Amendment, taking the power to the villages. Decision making is done, schemes are, there are 4 F's, concept of 4F. What is that? Concept of 4F. One, funds, functions, functionaries, freedom. So the funds can be collected by the panchayats. How? Water tax, can be sewerage tax. So the local bodies should be in a position to collect funds by imposing taxes. Okay, so that is the funds. So Panchayati Raj institution and urban, similarly, not only Panchayati Raj but the municipalities. So municipalities impose tax. It can be tax for water, drinking water, it can be for sewerage, it can be for garbage collection, and it can be so many things. So that is funds. The second is functions. Some of the activities which were being taken by the state government were now passed on to the panchayats and the urban local. For example, construction of streets, pavement, culverts, okay, drains. So lot many functions were given to these institutions, that you take these functions, you take over, you collect funds also, and you carry out the development. So that is how the villages will develop. Third is functionaries, that you recruit the people at your level. Local teacher, local veterinary doctor, the power were given, agriculture inspector, that you recruit them, so that you control them. Fourth is freedom. So they were the 4 F's which were given. So basically, Panchayati Raj institution, urban local bodies, they were under 73rd and amendment institution. Social audit. What is social audit? Audit. Slightly. Can you be slightly more specific? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. In respect of one particular scheme, social audit was made mandatory. What is that scheme? Manrega. So this is how it is done. The BDO will stand in front of the Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha means all adults who have got voting rights, and he will put a board saying that the last year we are got so many funds for this village, say 5 crores of rupees, and these were the works which we carried out. Now you tell me whether they were actually carried out or not. So the Gram Sabha is there. Every one of them will know it's a small village, whether that road was constructed or not, whether that culvert was made or not, whether that drains were constructed or not. So the audit is being done by the people of that village. That is called as social audit. Social audit is the audit by the people. So this has been adopted in Manrega, where people are shown that this is the list of the development works which we had carried out. Now you tell us whether it was done. First of all, it was carried out or not. It was correctly carried out or not. For example, the road was constructed and it has not been properly constructed. It has during rainy season it has virtually disappeared. So they were, someone will raise his hand, he'll say, but sir, that road is no longer there, and it was washed away. So the quality and the quantity is audited by the social audit. Affirmative action, you know, what is affirmative action? Reservation, correct. So that is the reservation. Audit by Gram Sabha. Example, Manrega. Fourth is universal access schemes. So there are certain schemes which are which is called a universal access. I will tell you some of the importance of this particular scheme. Local civil engagement. Local civil engagement means whenever a work is carried out, the local people who are the stakeholders, they are taken into confidence. So committees are formed. You remember one of the civil servants, he carried out 100 kilometers of road, Strong Pame, and he constructed 100 kilometers of road through crowdfunding. So he involved the people of that district, and he said, funds are not coming by the government, so you collect the funds and you be in charge. So he never became a party to that, but he helped in bringing people together, in collecting funds and constructing a 100-kilometer road. So that is called as local civic engagement. So let's take Panchayati Raj, 73rd, 74th Amendment. It promotes local decision because 4 F's are now passed on to them: freedom, funds, functions, functionaries. Promotes local decision making and inclusivity, improves inclusion, facilitates devolution of power. What is devolution of power? Giving power to the people. Decentralization. Things which were being done by the district magistrate, now they are being done by the panchayats. The 3-tier system is there in Panchayati Raj system. What are they? Zila Parishad, Panchayat Samiti and Gram Panchayat. Correct. So there are official and unofficial members at all the 3 levels, official and unofficial. At Panchayat level, who is the official member? Sachiv, Gram Sachiv. And the unofficial is the Sarpanch. At the Samiti level, who is the official and who is the unofficial? BDBO, VDO is the official, and the chairman of the Panchayat Samiti is the unofficial. At higher level, you have a DM. DM is normally officiating as the official member, or it can be separate CEO also or chairman also. But the chairman Zila Parishad is normally a non-official. He is the unofficial member. Okay. So at everywhere there is a confluence of official and unofficial members. So devolution of power and people decision, participation in decision making. So Panchayat sits, a meeting is called, they decide these are the taxes we are to impose, these are the streets we have to pave, and so on. All decisions are taken by them. And Gram Sachiv sits there, records their observation. Social audit. It's a powerful tool for citizen to participate in governance. Example, Andhra Pradesh, they introduced a system to strengthen accountability in Panchayati Raj system. Andhra Pradesh made statutory under Manrega in 2005. Now you have social audit compulsorily in Manrega. And 2017, Meghalaya was the first state in the country to mandate social auditing. You see, so Meghalaya Community Participation and Public Services Social Audit Act. Because ultimately the development is for the people. So the people should get involved in all the steps. Do you know what are the 6 steps of a policy making process? Read that. I will just briefly give you, just so that you should feel inspired. What is a public policy? Public policy moves in the following manner. It moves in a circle. Problem identification, agenda setting, I'll explain everything to you. Policy formulation, policy legitimization, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. Now, when you will become civil servant, you will be involved in all these 6 steps. So, number 1 is the problem identification. You will identify the problems of the people. So, you will go to a village and the villager will say, sir, the drinking water is not coming in our villages. We are getting drinking water in an adjoining village, but we don't have drinking water. So, that's a problem. Road has not been constructed, or electrification has not been done, or the bus service is not working. So, you will identify the problem. Agenda setting is finding the options, how to solve that problem, options for solving that problem. Then you formulate a policy. For example, the girl child was getting killed. Now the problem, that's a problem. Sooner, and it started showing many states, the number of boys, the males, was much more than the number of females. So the males were not able to find the brides. It has happened. And therefore they had to go outside the states to marry, to bring brides. So the government said, that's a very disturbing thing which is happening. So how to correct that? That's a problem. You have to find out solutions. So what can be the solution? They said, what is the root cause? The root cause was preference for the male child. कि मेल चाइल्ड जो है वो बाप को कंधा देने वाला है ना, बेटी तो है वो तो घर की इज्जत है, वो तो दूसरे घर में चली जाएगी, घर से का पैसा भी लेके वो चली जाएगी सारा का सारा. This is how the male mindset takes place. मेरे को जो है मेरे आखिरी वक्त में लास्ट राइट्स कौन कंडक्ट करेगा? लड़की तो कर नहीं सकती, लड़का ही केवल जो है मेरी उसको मुखाग्नि देगा. So all those things, and so then the government said to do. Do you know the number of steps? At least 2 or 3 dozen steps were taken. Number 1, they found that the doctors were carrying out ultrasound and they were killing the girl child. So they said, we have to ban these. So they came out with an act that anyone who is found to be having a portable ultrasound machine and he is trying to use that machine for detecting the sex of the child, he will be put behind bars. He will be arrested, he will be tried. So the act was made. Then they said that we will have special schemes for women, girls, beti bachao, beti padhao. A moment girl is born in the house, we will put a fixed deposit, say 20,000 rupees, which will grow up to a huge amount by the time she is of marriageable age, so that that amount is ready with them. Health, portion, many schemes were formed. Similarly, for other, for bringing about, so women, ambassadors were also made. Madhuri Dixit was appointed as the ambassador by the Haryana government to promote, promote and motivate people to have girl child. And many people in the families, they were urged. So some of them, for example, in the last rites were conducted by the girls. And so that was a change in the system which was being brought about. And the government had to take many actions. So that was the agenda setting. Then once you are ready with the agenda, that this is how it is to be done, then you formulate a policy. Policy is prepared and it goes to the cabinet, the Prime Minister approves it, and then it goes to the legislature. The legislature is policy legitimization. You make it into an act. And then You implement that, policy implementation. And finally, impact study is policy evaluation. Whether it has actually improved the sex ratio or not, that is the evaluation. So all these things now were decentralized in the case of Panchayati Raj system. Okay? So this is how the social audit has been able to help. Coming to affirmative action, you are already aware, promotes participation of historically under represented groups in the society. They are scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, now economically weaker sections also. Increased access to education, employment and other opportunities. So reservation of 25% for scheduled caste, OBC's reservation, and for EWS reservation. So many types of reservations. Even for some cases, posts they are reserved exclusively for women. Can you give an example where a post can be reserved for women also? PRI, so yes, of course, Panchayati Raj system, 33% reservation. Some cases it is 50% also, some states. Some posts which you think that has been not been finally passed, the reservation of women in the parliament. For example, if you have to recruit a nurse for the women's ward in a hospital, gynae, then you will put a condition that it can only be a lady. It's an affirmative action, but it is allowed. If it is a girls' college, exclusively girls' college, you can put a condition that the principal will have to be a lady. So these are the different types of affirmation which are allowed under the constitution. Okay. And creates a more diverse and equitable system of governance. For example, reservation quota for SC and ST. Okay. Universal access schemes. India has empowered its people, brought schemes for more inclusion like Ayushman Bharat Jan Arogya Yojana. So we have brought, what is the, they are meant for whom? Either old people or poor patients. And Right to Education Act. Who introduced Right to Education Act in Pakistan? Who was instrumental? Who was instrumental? Who didn't do it, but was instrumental? He pressurized. Come on, you know that. The person was awarded Nobel Prize for that. Malala was responsible for introduction of right to education in Pakistan. And for child rights, another person was given Nobel Prize in India, Kailash Satyarthi. What was the name of the program which he had launched? Bachpan Bachao. Okay, so this is the universal access schemes. Then local civic engagement. So resident welfare association. And you know, when you will become the civil servants, one of the important things of responsiveness will be that you, when you get invitation from the resident welfare association, Mohallas association, you go there, listen to their problems. Many times what happens, the commerce secretary or the revenue secretary is invited by the industries association that you come, be the chief guest and dwell upon the policies of the government, so that the involvement of the people is there. So this is how local civic engagement, resident welfare association, Bhagidari scheme is in Delhi. State specific incentive decision making for basic civic functions, that you involve the people in decision making, that let the decision be taken by the people, not by the authorities only. Same thing, participatory. You remember, participatory means not government is only one entity, civil society, stakeholders, and engages citizen in local governance and civic planning. Is it clear or not? Okay. Technology's role in inclusive governance. So what is the role of the technology? Enhancing access to services, Now services are easily accessible. COVID-19 particularly actually sort of bulldozed. People had to take access to technology because nobody was willing to touch anything. Even लिफ्ट में जाते थे तो हम लोग हाथ से उंगली से नहीं टच करते थे, डॉट पेन से ऐसे करके बटन दबाते थे. You see, nobody wanted to touch anything, so one had to access technology. Everything was then, the public service delivery was through technology. Amazon, Flipkart, Zomato, Swiggy, these were all now at the doorsteps of the people with the help of technology. What these people are called normally, there is a term for these people like Amazon, Flipkart, huh? Kana? No. Aggregators. They aggregate the demands of the people and then they supply those things. Huh? E-governance platforms. What are the 5 requirements for e-governance? First of all, can you tell me one country which is regarded as one of the best, if not the best countries in the world for being at the top of the e-governance? Maximum public service deliveries are in that country. It's a very small country. Singapore is definitely one of them, definitely. Estonia. Estonia is the country, it's a very small country. Estonia and Singapore. Estonia is at number 1. So e-governance, what are the 5 requirements for e-governance? E-governance means, what is the full form of e-governance? Electronic governance. What are the 5 C's which are required for e-governance? Tell me. Pardon? Yes. You were saying something? Computer. One is computer. You require computer. Number 2, 5 C's. 5 words start, Communication. Okay, I'll use another word for that, connectivity. You require an internet connection or intranet connection, connectivity. What is the third? You require a content. Something has to be transferred, no? Data has to be transferred, that's the content. 4th is consumer. There has to be a consumer. And 5th is confidence building. Because e-governance is often looked at with suspicion. So you have to build confidence. So these are the 5 important C's of e-governance. So e-governance platforms, technology, digital initiatives. Digital initiatives, read the Digital India. There are 3 vision areas and 9 pillars of Digital India. Digital India was launched by this government in 2015, around 2015, with an outlay of 1 lakh crores of rupees. What are some of the important pillars of Digital India? At least name one of them. Broadband. Taking broadband to the panchayats. It's called broadband highways. Then those areas of the country where mobile connectivity is not there, taking like northeast, Arunachal, the mobile connectivity may not be in all places. So taking mobile connectivity. And there are many other things, for example, IT for jobs, and then Make in India for IT products, and so on. So read that. And community involvement. So community is always involved. So whenever there is a technology, how community is involved? Can you tell me? How community gets involved? Yeah, absolutely correct. Media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, you involve the people. That involvement was not there. Now you float a scheme and you invite likes and dislikes, you ask for people's opinion, and soon it will be flooded. Railway is one of the biggest ministries in this country, which has got a very powerful Facebook and Twitter handle. So it immediately, there are many people who are always listening to what the railway is saying, and they bring out their, for example, they will say the air condition of this at this train was not working. There was garbage there. Food was of bad quality. All these things are community involvement. With technology, it is coming, isn't it? So technology has made people more inclusive. People have got a voice now. Earlier, there was only print media and electronic media, but there also the people were not involved. It was one-sided. The person who is sitting in the TV studio, he is saying something, but the people are not able to respond. But with social media, now the people are involved. Okay. Enhancing access to services. So India leverages the JAM Trinity. You are aware about JAM Trinity? Jan Dhan Yojana, which is financial inclusion, and Aadhaar and mobile phones. Now we have got, that is why we are now shifting practically everything to the mobile, isn't it? So financial inclusion, DBT. So for marginalized population, DBT has been found to be very effective. DBT means transfer of funds directly into your bank accounts. So bank accounts were not opened for everyone, but with the help of JAM, Jan Dhan Yojana, with zero balance, people accounts were opened in the remotest areas where there were no banks, but people were appointed as kind of something like bank managers. So they were moving bank managers. They would go to the people and open up their bank accounts. And then in those bank accounts, the subsidy, LPG gas subsidy, scholarship for the students, that was getting transferred. And you remember Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. He used to say at that time, if 1 rupee flows from the top, ultimately only 12-13 paisa reaches the bottom line, because so much of money gets through corruption. Okay. E-governance platforms. So there are CP Grams. CP Grams is centralized public grievance redress monitoring system. This is for a transparency and accountability. Basically, this brings about transparency and accountability, but it actually is as a result of responsiveness. Okay. So in all the three parts of good governance are taken care of by this, where you can file complaints, you can write grievances. That is CP Gram. Pragati. Pragati is monitoring of the all important schemes. It is done by the Prime Minister. It is proactive governance and timely implementation. So Prime Minister himself monitors these schemes, which are meant for different sections of the society. For example, whether a bridge in the northeast has been built or not, whether something has been done in Uttarakhand or not. So the monitoring is done. That takes into account, that gives a balanced development all over the country. Because if, there are three people who matter, they are called as PM, CM and DM. So Prime Minister, Chief Minister and District Magistrate. They carry out the entire development scenario. Okay. Community involvement. mygovernment.in, and Prime Minister also gets many recommendations, many suggestions on mygovernment.in, and he speaks them in Man Ki Baat. Man Ki Baat is a radio program which Prime Minister, he does it almost on every Sunday. So there is citizen engagement, empowering communities to influence decision making process. So mygovernment.in is the most important program which helps for engagement of citizens. One can write to the mygovernment.in with suggestions for improvement in the governance. Is it clear till now? Challenges. There are challenges. Resource constraints. So one is the resource constraint. After all, money is paid only by in the form of taxes. So there are resource constraints. So there may not be always possible to earmark funds for different areas or different people. So even though the Prime Minister may be wanting that the entire country should develop equally, but it may not always happen because there is a paucity. Some funds, for example, he says, all right, this year we will do this for this, next year we will do for the others, and next year do it for, so resource constraint. The second is societal biases are there. So society is inherently, there are biases. So biases in the society against certain people. As I gave you that example, there can be a bias of high caste people against the low caste people, or the haves against the have-nots. A minister may have a bias against those people who have not voted for him. So all those societal biases are there. Technological challenges. Internet facilities may not be available in remote areas of the country. So technological constraints are there. You have to take, first of all, internet. Mobile phones are not there. There can be geographical problems. One does not have a road to that remote areas of in the mountains, etc. Systemic inequities. So there are systemic means the system may not be working properly. There can be problems in the system. And complexities of implementation. So the implementation process may be very complex. So sometimes implementation is difficult, and even though we want that to be done, but implementation becomes difficult because of complexities in the process. And balancing majority rule with rights of minorities. So majority and minority, sometimes balancing becomes difficult, because if you put too many funds in for minorities, majorities start having grievances. If the minorities do not get, then the minorities have their grievances. So you have to do a very tightrope walking. What is a tightrope walking? You have to balance the interest of many people. And in India, we have got unity in diversity. There is a huge diversity. Different languages, different communities, different people. So it's really a tightrope walking. So resource constraints impacts inclusive governance. It limits the ability of government to serve all citizens. So one was resource constraints. There is always a paucity of funds. For example, dependence of local body institution on center and state governments. The municipalities or the panchayats don't have sufficient funds. You have to depend on the state government and the central government. After all, what funds can they collect? Chula tax, maybe water tax. In a village, people are not very wealthy. You can't impose huge amount of taxation there. So therefore, there is a paucity of funds. So they have to depend on the state government or the central government for grants. Okay. So resource constraint. Societal biases. Caste-based discrimination. So unequal access to education, where people from lower caste, children from lower caste, they feel discrimination. There are many examples. For example, in the midday meal scheme, if the cook who is preparing food for the children belongs to the lower caste, the parents of the upper caste, they come and complain. They say, no, our children will not take food from the woman, the cook, who is from the lower caste. So these societal biases are very much there, isn't it? So that is a limitation. Admission are denied sometime because they belong to a lower caste. Discrimination in schools. The children are purposely told that you will not be in the company of these people. They belong to the lower caste. You should sit with those people who belong to the higher caste. So that kind of societal bias. Then disability based. So inaccessible public infrastructure restricting mobility and participation for people with disabilities. Disabilities people have physically handicapped, handicapped of vision or anything, they have their problems. For example, people with disabilities may not be able to go to the school because they are disabled, and their parents, they cannot take, they don't have time to take them. So there are problems of disabilities. They have to go to a special school sometime. If it's an autistic child, sometimes they have to be admitted to special schools. So the disabilities based are there, discrimination, and gender bias and religious and ethnic bias. Gender bias is related to the fact that people sometimes believe that these works can only be done by males. The females, no, they can't. They can't be a good scientist. They can't be good astronauts. So gender biases are there. You see, sex and gender are two terms which we use in sociology. Sex is determined at birth, and it largely remains the same sex throughout one's life. Exceptions are there where sex change takes place, but otherwise sex is fixed at the time of birth. But gender is fixed by the society. Because society fixes that these are the roles which are assigned to the males and these are the roles assigned to the female. For example, they will say the role of teacher, that should be with a woman. But the role of a scientist or an astronaut, that is to be done, or an army, that is to be done by the male. So that gender, it's called gender stereotype. So something is put in the minds of the people. For example, a child who was in Africa, so when he was asked, he was a small child, went to school, he was a son, male child. So the male child was put a question, if there is a paucity of food, if there is a paucity of food in your house, who will sacrifice? He said, well, my mother and then my sister. He never said that I will sacrifice or my father will sacrifice. So that is the kind of gender biases, gender stereotypes which have been put into the minds of the people, that the male is superior to the female. So those things also lead to many problems. For example, if in the selection for a post there is a male and there is a female, so some offices, they will not like to select a female. Number one, they will say, oh, she has to look after the family, look after the children. She will send applications on leave. She cannot go on tour. So they will not select. And particularly if she is carrying a child, then they will say, oh, then she will take a leave, leave for pregnancy, maternity leave, and she will go away for 4 months. So there is a bias, in the inherent bias which is there. So that restricts the inclusivity. Technological challenges, the digital divide. People don't know that literacy is not there. In the rural areas, people are not very. You give them a debit card. Some of the people don't even know how to operate a debit card, how to use a debit card, what to talk of internet. Though of course lot is being done now. What is that institution which was created in the rural areas to take care of the public services digitally? CSCs, correct. So common service centers, they were created where you can go and get different services on demand. Digital illiteracy, cyber security like cyber frauds, you are already aware. These are the technological challenges which take place. The cyber frauds are becoming recently. You remember that, and this, I keep ask because I also carry out the mock interviews. So I asked this question to the candidate who has been called for interview. So I said, what do you understand by digital arrest? Now, digital arrest, that term has been coined recently. And you know that in the mobile phone also, before you can get connected, there is a voice which warns you that if there is a call from allegedly from CBI or from someone else, you should immediately report. So digital arrest is another thing which is kind of a fraud which is being played upon the people. So technological challenges, systemic inequities. So often these inequities are deeply entrenched and require significant structural reforms. So this involves challenging existing power dynamics. Now what are the reforms that can take place? Can you tell me some of the important reforms to improve the system. Electoral reforms, administrative reforms. What was the name of the person who was the chairman of the Administrative Reforms Commission 2, ARC 2? What was the name of the person? Prakash Singh was regarding police reforms. The name was Veerappa Moily. Veerappa Moily was in charge. He carried out suggestion. Third is police reforms. Fourth is education reforms. Fifth is judicial reforms. Health reforms. And so on. There are many political reforms. So many reforms have to be carried out to improve the systems. For example, criminalization of politics. A large number of people who have been elected, their cases are pending against those people. So we have to bring about these kind of reforms. Balancing majority rule. While majority decisions are vital in a democratic society, it is equally important to safeguard the rights and interests of those who might be disadvantaged. So majority is important, no doubt, but you also have to care for the minority people. Okay, that is how the majority and the minority will live together peacefully in the country, which we had right from 1947. We have been living together, all the minorities. Look at, for example, Ratan Tata. Was a Parsi. The nation building, if you have to name a few people, that was also a question which I asked yesterday in the mock interview, that name 5 people who were nation builders and who were not politicians. Sam Manekshaw, Ratan Tata, Homi Jahangir Bhabha, Vikram Sarabhai, C.V. Raman, APJ Abdul Kalam, they were not politicians, but they were nation builders. So, okay, Manmohan Singh was actually, he was a politician also. He was no doubt an economist, but he was also a politician. So I said a person who is not a politician. That is a question. But yes, he was a nation builder. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. Complexity of implementation. So each community has its own set of values, customs and expectation. So we have to adopt to those people. So every community, every religion, they have their own customs. And in order to make the development reach them, sometimes persuasion is necessary because they are entrenched in their system. For example, in many communities, Parda system was there. Now, if you want to tell them, they are bound by certain dogmas and customs. They don't allow, some countries do not allow their women to drive a car. So therefore the bringing change sometimes becomes difficult, taking the fruits of development to those areas, isn't it? And that is why some of the panchayats, where the sarpanch was a woman, but actually the work was being carried out by the sarpanch pati. Sarpanch pati, they are, so pradhan pati, some sarpanch pati. So therefore, some dogmas that how can the women rule us? No, the men folk only can do. They can be the karta. The puja in the house can only be done by the male member. It can't be done by a female member. Yeah, these are the things. Sometimes these things it's difficult to break them. So the future of inclusive governance, emerging trends, adaptive governance for diversity. So we are adapting governance for diversity. We are diversifying governance, not only localizing in certain areas. We are diversifying. Geographically also and socially also. So that the fruits reach all the people. Technology, artificial intelligence and data analytics for transparency. Because if artificial intelligence is used, then it automatically sets certain algorithms. And therefore, there is a greater semblance of equity. And equity focus, addressing systemic inequities and fostering social justice. So emerging trends, the future of this, adopt adaptive governance practices to address India's diverse socio-economic landscape, ensuring inclusivity. So we have to adopt to, for different schemes, different people. You have to have a different scheme for Karnataka. You may have to have different scheme for Kerala, different scheme for Northeast, because every person is special. Every person is diverse. You have to adopt a diversified scheme. But inclusivity is the central point. Future of inclusive, adapting demographic and social changes. So tailor policies to meet the evolving needs of India's growing and diverse population, focusing on equity and representation. So you tailor on the different needs of the population. Leveraging emerging technologies, you utilize AI, data analytics, digital platforms to ensure transparency. Because if you handle it manually, then their bias may come. But if it is done through machine, then machine will not have bias generally, unless there is a inbuilt bias in the algorithms. But otherwise, it will be equitable. That is why government officials did not want to introduce e-governance, because their power and discretion, that was gone. Otherwise, the superintendent would sit on the file till you pay me some amount of money. So that was the system before e-governance. They were not, they were very much against technology, because technology brings in accountability and also transparency. Promoting equity and fairness, so it will ensure equity. And that will lead to sustainable development. And developing inclusive and strong institution. So build robust and adaptive institutions. So institution should be robust. Robust means, what is robust? Huh? Strong? Kani? Destroy? No, no, no. Robust. Robust means right first time. It should not go wrong at all. Robust system. It will not go wrong. It will always be right. Okay? Robust system. That craft policies addressing India's needs. So this was the first thing which I wanted to talk to you about. And now, any questions so far? So we'll go to the second part. Break? Okay. But do come back within 10 minutes. So let's keep it 8 minutes, so that by the time 10 minutes all of you are back.